Hi, I'm DK. Welcome to Libangang Pagong Gaming Channel, your go-to destination for all things about PlayStation. Please join us as we dive into the world of PlayStation, from its latest games and current sales to the best recommendations for making the most of your gaming experience. Gaming has progressed well beyond focusing solely on gameplay. Nowadays, players are looking for gaming experiences that takes them on a trip through the narrative structure. Because the interactive story genre is so crowded, sorting out the best from the rest will help you pick which games to play. In this episode, we will talk about the top interactive story games on the PlayStation 5, including well-known titles as well as less recognized favorite titles. We would also like to invite you to hit that subscribe button to join us in exploring the vast world of PlayStation. Let's get it on. Please enjoy. Detroit Become Human is one of my favorite games of all time, and it was released by Sony Interactive Entertainment. Detroit is as interactive as it gets in video games, and it has the most dialogue options and different endings of any game in our list. 40 alternative endings are available, and they are determined by the decisions you make throughout each playthrough. This implies that even if you finish the game the first time, you can replay several situations to change the ending. You get to control many characters at the same time in distinct stories that run parallel at first but eventually collide. The plot of the story is that the city of Detroit will face an android revolution in the future. The androids they created to be their slaves begin to gain sentience and revolt against the existence that they'd been forced to live. The three characters you control are all androids, each with their motivation and role in the overall story. Humanity may fall as a result of your decisions and trying to get too attached to such decisions. The game was remastered for the PS4 in 2014, but the 2022 release title The Last of Us Part 1 is one of the best looking games out there. The Last of Us recounts the adventures of a smuggler named Joel, who you're probably already familiar with. Joel attempts to safely transport a young girl named Ellie across a post-apocalyptic America brimming with cannibalistic animals. Cannibalism is not the only issue to be concerned about, because even uninfected humans cannot be trusted. It's a dog-eat-dog world in which you must do everything to keep your companion alive. Making vital decisions at key periods of the game to advance the tale is part of the surviving aspect of the game. You have control over the young child Ellie, and there are even brief moments in the opening sequence where you have control over Joel's daughter Sarah. In terms of the game's approach to an interactive tale, The Last of Us includes more active gameplay, including combat, than the other games in this video. What the game accomplishes beautifully, however, is how it unfolds like a movie. Cutscenes merge seamlessly with ordinary gameplay sections and quick-time events. The protagonist and NPC's depth of character also contributes to the feeling that you're inside the movie rather than playing a game. In conclusion, The Last of Us Part 1 is one of the best interactive story games on PS5. The Life is Strange series is possibly the best example of an interactive story game. Square Enix has been publishing the game series since its initial installment in 2015. The Life is Strange Remastered Collection comprises remastered copies of the series' first two games. These included 4K-ready character models as well as many as additional visual change. Both game stories and plot advancements stayed consistent. The original Life is Strange game tells the narrative of Maxine Caulfield, who discovers a rare power she never knew she possessed after a tragic occurrence involving a childhood friend and a gunman. That specific power is the ability to rewind time, and she is forced to use it again during the game to overturn other unfortunate events. The second game, Life is Strange Before the Storm, serves as a prequel to the first. Chloe Price, Max's childhood friend, is the major character in this story. The game recounts her troubles after her father's death and the bond she had with a prominent kid at her school, Rach Amber, another major character in the first part. Both characters unearth long-hidden secrets that lead to Rachel's birth mother's search. Life is Strange Remastered Collection is undeniably more visually appealing than the two original games, but this is an experience that is almost entirely focused on the story rather than the presence or absence of 4K resolution. The interactive tale frequently gives you, the player, options that alter how the plot progresses, giving you the impression that your actions have an impact on the lives of the game's characters. If you're new to the interactive story game genre, there's no better place to start than Life is Strange. Disco Elysium is another interactive story game for the PlayStation 5 that focuses on immersing the player in its world without the necessity for active gameplay like a battle. The first thing that strikes you about the game is its unique old painting-like graphical design. Disco Elysium was released in 2019 by Zaum, but the final cut was released 2 years later to add voice acting, new vision quests, a new streamer mode, and visual and performance enhancements. The game itself is best described as feeling like reading a graphic interactive novel. The flow of events is dictated by skill tests and dialogue trees, and your action or inactions have a noticeable impact on intangibles like the protagonist's personality traits, ideology, and pain threshold. The protagonist is an amnesiac investigator tasked with solving a murder case. Last up is a supernatural adventure game released in 2021 by Annapurna Interactive. The game follows the experience of 3 characters who are all going through difficult moments in their life. The first character is Jan, a working-class man who is stuck in a dead-end job with a small child to worry about. When Jan's body is replaced with that of a young programmer named Jack, his world is flipped upside down. Both men try in vain to make the best of a bad situation, but only the long-term solution is finding a way to go back to normal. Mina, the second character, is an agent with an intelligence firm. Her story is much more complicated than Jan's with the twists and turns, including adultery in her marriage, being spied on by her boss, and traveling on a top-secret mission. The third character is Dawn Adelik, a young teenage girl still in school. She and a few companions become involved with a strange man who has skeletons in his closet. Their curiosity eventually gets Dawn into trouble, and she is faced with the real threat of losing everything and everyone she once knew. All 3 stories initially run parallel to one another, but eventually come together in the game's final chapter. You get to control each one of the characters to make decisions about what they say in various scenarios and interact with them in minigames. In the endgame, you can choose one of the 2 options for each character to determine how the rest of the story will unfold. Because of the story and gameplay features, this is one of the best interactive story games on the PS5. The Dark Pictures Anthology was released in 2019 by Supermassive Games, the studio behind the critically acclaimed Until Dawn game from 2015. The series includes cinematic, interactive horror games that raise the bar from paranormal to scary. Man of Medan was the first part of the series, and House of Ashes arrived 2 years later in 2021. The game follows the same format as the previous installment, with the user placing themselves in the shoes of a group of people dealing with dangerous events. Your task is not as simple, as you will need to keep as many people alive as possible. This game has a high level of cinematic quality, fascinating locations, and characters you can fully engage. Everything about the audio is nearly perfect for a horror game. The voice acting is outstanding, and the sound effects are frightening enough. Indeed, this is one of the scariest PS5 games. There are 5 playable characters with alternative plots that are adequately influenced by the choices you make both in terms of action and dialogue. There are several scenes when you must make an essential decision before proceeding, and those decisions affect the relationships between the characters as well as the plot's direction. House of Ashes is a great game to play if you want an interactive experience with just the appropriate amount of horror. Crows and 22nd Century Toys collaborated on the release of the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. The game is a console port of the previous PC release. If you played the previous edition, you'll be delighted about this one because it has a lot of new stuff. The plot revolves around a character named Stanley who realizes that all of his colleagues have mystery vanished. He starts going throughout the office, followed solely by the game's audio narration to figure out what occurred. In this mystery game, you can take multiple different pathways to get different endings. The game consists primarily of you roaming around the grounds and interacting with objects to locate clues, but the interaction between yourself and the narrator keep things fresh. The Stanley Parable isn't the most visually exciting game out there, but it's one of the best interactive story games on PS5. Road 96 may not have the clout that Disco Elysium does in gaming circles, but it is an example of what an interactive story game should be. The game was originally launched in 2021 and made its way to the PlayStation until April 2022. The plot revolves around a fictitious state that is holding a presidential election. The goal of your protagonist is to leave the country, but the process of doing so is an important part of the story. You will control various characters in procedurally generated circumstances, but the goal remains the same. The people you meet along the journey and the experiences you encounter are what shine through in the story. Your primary way of engagement, like with the other alternatives in this video, is through dialogue options. If you're seeking one of the greatest interactive story games on PS5, Road 96 is a must-play. The Forgotten City is a video game based on the mod for The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Dear Villagers and Film Victoria published the game. Skyrim is a terrific game in and of itself, but it takes an astounding amount of labor and creative ability to turn a mod into a full-fledged game that is likewise fantastic. The game takes place in ancient Rome, where your character discovers a community controlled by the Golden Rule. The rule declares that if any member of the community sins, everyone in the community will die and be transformed into gold. When you arrive in the city, an election is going to take place, and there is a strong suspicion that it will be followed by murder. As a result, your goal is to prevent the murder and avoid violating the Golden Rule. Fortunately, because you're imprisoned in a time loop, the rule does not affect you, and you can always restart from your last checkpoint if it's broken by you or anybody else. The story's progression is highlighted by numerous dialogue encounters in which you are given options for what to say. Every person in the community has a tale to tell, so you'll be doing a lot of talking, especially if you want the side missions that branch off from information gleaned through talks. Because you have previously lived the scenario, you will receive more knowledge about what will happen as the game unfolds. You can take advantage of this by asking individuals to assist you with tasks so that you can handle many problems at once. There is some combat gameplay in the game, but it's light and simple. After all, this is intended to be an interactive story game, and it does it admirably. Life is Strange True Colors features new characters and a fresh tale that can be enjoyed independently of earlier chapters of the game. Square Enix released True Colors in 2021. It's the series' third main installment, and it tells the narrative of a young lady named Alex Chen. Alex also possesses a magical power. She can fully experience other people's emotions and read their thoughts. The latter may appear to be a cool power to have, but the former has proven to be more difficult to control, placing her in more difficulty than she would like. Given that she grew up in foster care, Alex attempts to keep her skills hidden as much as possible to prevent difficulties. When her brothers reconnects with her and offers her to start a new life, someplace no one knows about her and ability, she has the perfect opportunity to start again. The choices she makes have an impact on her relationships with the people around her and how the rest of the game unfolds. We can conclude that Life is Strange True Colors is one of the best interactive story games on the PlayStation 5. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Check out our other videos for more gaming content and recommendations. We thank you for your interest and hope to see you at the next one. Everyone, happy gaming!